Look at me. Look at me. I am the Prism simp now. Spoils of the War. Picked that up at one of the roads this past weekend. Yeah. Alright, so Pheano and Jimmy, we're back to talk about our Prism simping again. Say hello, Jimmy.
Hello, I'm on the call.
A little scuffed. I don't have a second webcam setup for him. I couldn't get that going without it lagging. Sorry about that. I'm going to try to figure out a better setup for the future. But yeah, we played some more Prism this past week or two and got a couple more placements. We got, I got a top 4 and a top 8.
I got a second place.
Uh,
I probably should have won, but
yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit of the why you didn't win. It was kind of silly, but yeah, let's jump into the deck and our deck choices. A little less defensive than the last build. We're off of the trying to like block out chain version of the deck. Now we're just pedal to the metal attacking. I guess let's talk about what we added to the deck since then. We added Arcanite Skullcap. I don't believe that was in our last version of the build. I believe we were on Halo Null Rune Hood. Could be wrong there, but we also just didn't both have a Skullcap, and now we both at least have one that we can borrow. Before, for Chain, we were trying to prevent the damage with Null Rune, and now we're just using the Skullcap to just essentially gain 3 life in that matchup, just so we can, dedicate more cards to attacking in the matchup.
everything on the right side is cards we want to talk about, not actually in the deck.
Yeah, these are just like kind of talking points over here. So like, for instance, Snag, we're not on that anymore. You played with that card more than I did. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I found Snag, unless you got it on the fixed turn, never really did anything, and most of the people in our area are trying to set up like giant Rift Spine stacks. In fact, most of the chain players don't even stack their deck like the bottom of their pitch. They just boonga boonga swing in. So like they might hit you with a snag for like 3 to 5 damage, or I could just play a card that attacks or blocks. So.
Yeah, it's like unless you're playing a snag and mitigating 4 points of damage, was that even better than just having a herald that is a blue pitch? Like it's about the same. We're not utilizing it for anything else, like being a 0 cost, like Katsuken. And then you've played Halo a bit more, and you like that card a bit more than me. And you also played Tunic. Do you want to talk about those?
If you're playing the defensive builds, especially if you're like walking out footsteps a lot, Tunic footsteps is like borderline broken sometimes, especially when your opponent doesn't really know how to play against footsteps and like keep closing the chain and stuff. And being able to just get all that incremental value off Tunic, like when games are going to like turn 12, 15, 20, it gets really silly really quickly, especially if you're not really activating like theoretically Vestige. And Vestige isn't very good defensive. They both block for 1, but like you get way more value off the Tunic. And then the whole thing about Tunic is that it's supposed to be like 3 full turns, which is both 3 of yours and 3 of your opponent's turn. But if you're using it on like your opponent's turn, that means you can go into some turns and like shave off some of that turn cycle sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up being able to use it a little more for people too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I only liked Halo on bricking my hands, and I brick a lot, and I shuffle my deck well. I'm just really fucking unlucky.
Yeah, you did.
So Halo is really good for getting you out of jams and like kind of resetting your hands and making Vestige live and playing books and everything. So like I really like it, but the ability to just gain 3 health and turn with some on hit triggers with
making those like fixing those awkward 4 blocks and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think I like Skullcat better. Just don't get unlucky. Don't be me, I guess.
Yeah, you get unlucky a lot. Every time I look over at you, I swear I see you having a hand of like 2 blues, a library, and like a Celestial Cataclysm or something. Where you just like, yup, pass turn, essentially. Like you can't really do much.
Yep.
And then Null Rune already kind of talked about. It's essentially just we're not on the preventing damage plan. We're just gonna gas, try to swing out at them. Let me just jump into the deck and talk about some of the choices because I didn't really get a chance to talk about a ton of the deck choices last time. So yeah, let's just jump into the meat and potatoes of the deck. So Command and Conquer. This is for the mirror match. This is for any decks playing a lot of defense reactions. Really good against like Katsu, Dash, Bravo, stuff like that. It's also really good as another attack that we can have that doesn't have Phantasm, so we can like block out with 2 cards and then play a Command and Conquer that's not going to break. Also good for just pummel Command and Conquer. That's a really good plan against a lot of decks. Again, all those defensive decks, it's a blowout against them if you play that while they have a hand of defense reactions, and then you pummel over, getting their arsenal, getting the 2 cards they block with, and making them discard. It's a big tempo swing. Similarly, the Celestial Cataclysms also for the mirror, just big chunky attacks that break Phantasm. I already mentioned it. We're on 3 pummels. I previously was liking just a couple pummels, using them for the matchups that they matter, and just pitching them and setting up the bottom of your deck with them. Uh, I just kind of wanted a few more aggressive cards for Chain, mostly, just to try to set up those like big pummel turns where you can run away with the game with like an Erudition or a Judgment, and just kind of put them down on life, put them down on cards, and just give you that tempo swing you need. Um, I guess, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Cataclysm is also 7, so breaking lines, which matters in the mirror.
yeah.
And it's also, as we keep saying, it's our E-Strike.
Mm.
You get +2 and go again. Great.
Super good, and it's a yellow pitch. I guess the other interesting thing that we're playing right now would just be talking about our spread of heralds and then the epots. Nothing else really worth mentioning. The armor is pretty standard, other than the skull cap. Um, everyone plays the 9 of each of these heralds pretty much. I don't think there's much debate for not playing these, other than maybe not protection, but I think protection is so much more powerful than a lot of the other heralds. And then, like, Erudition, Judgment, of course, you're going to play those. So it's really just Ravages, Rebirth, and Tenacity. Do you want to talk about some of our choices with those?
So I found that the secret MVP of the deck was actually Rebirth, just for threatening all of those, stacking whatever herald you need. Usually Erudition, but it doesn't really matter. And I found that, people block for 6, so the blue and yellow always get blocked the same, and but people kind of groan. And if you don't have anything threatening in your discard pile to them, they'll almost always let it through. And if it's like a fucking fatigue deck, that +1 card back in your deck may matter. And low key, one of the best things you can always grab is just a yellow War Tomb that just cleans up all your hands, and it's usually the best pick. So, and you don't need a Erudition for that, but just having the Erudition like attack with 1 early just to threaten that is really good.
Yeah, maybe strip
And
some
then
armor or something early, like catch them with their pants down where they don't have an arsenal defense reaction, and then come with the Erudition, strip like some battle worn, and then just keep threatening Erudition every time you attack with a rebirth. Really powerful.
and then Tenacity, the Dominate one. We've been waffling back and forth of having yellow and blue. Like, blue Tenacity is probably the worst herald, but yellow Tenacity is low-key one of the better heralds, just because they can't just put a sync below in front of it, and closing out games, and like just turning on
Vestige.
your Vestige. And like, people really don't want to put armor in front of that, because they're just like, it's 1 point of damage or 2 points of damage. It doesn't really have an on-hit effect.
Yeah, I
But
think
then,
you only play the blue if you exactly want more blue pitches in the deck. Like, I just want
yeah,
every blue herald because they are blue light illusionist cards for all the cards in the deck that care about those subtypes.
and block reserve.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, and yeah, I found Judgment. I mean, it low key is really good against bad opponents. opponents or people that aren't paying attention. Like obviously it's good against chain, and that's what it's for. But like it has other uses. Like it's good against Tatsu, and it's good against Dorinthia and whatever.
Hmm.
And I don't think it's good against Levia. Does she even have any? Oh, I guess if they're playing the mid range build.
Well, they have like Ghostly Visit and stuff they'll play.
Yeah, but I mean I've never had that happen. But yeah, and but that's almost the one that always gets cut. It's like if we need to cut something into not chain, that's
For
usually the first
sideboard, not deck building.
Yeah. I think that's the only other heralds to really know. Like war tunes are crazy.
Well, I guess I'll just be talking about the numbers of them, too.
Yeah.
So, like, we're on 12 blue heralds here, and then the only other blues in the deck are 2 epots, which we'll talk about some more in a minute. The only blue heralds that we're not playing are Ravages and Tenacity. Again, I feel like you only play blue Tenacity if you exactly just want uh, the extra blue heralds just for pitch, and then Ravages. I think it's just one of the weaker ones, not really worth playing. It does hit for 6 if it lands, but it's annoying that Ravages, no matter what, is just going to eat like a 2-card block and then not get the arcane damage in, which I have been thinking about recently. Like, actually, maybe Red Ravages might be good because that one has a better chance of getting through because the grown it's 7. I'm not gonna put 2 cards in armor in front of that, so I'm just gonna take it and you just get an 8-point swing. That might be worth something. I feel like that card might be slept on. I want to play with it a bit more to kind of suss it out a bit, but if I wanted more blues though in the deck, I would probably start with putting in the blue Ravages before putting in anything else, and then Tenacity as a last resort. So yeah.
No, yeah, keep going.
Last card in the main deck I think that we need to talk about is Epot, right? Yeah, nothing else really worth talking about. So Epot was an idea I had like 2 weeks ago. It was like right after uploading the last video, where I was trying to think about how do we continue putting on pressure against a chain deck while still being able to play around them having like 9 blades and shit in their sideboard, because at the moment and at the time, a lot of people in our area are oversiding for Prism, so it's kind of annoying playing around those all the time.
And they still are.
Yeah, you had someone the other day that had 13 6-power cards against you. It was a dash deck. Like, what?
Yeah, I didn't win that game.
No chill. But Epot kind of functions as like a time snap potion for us when we're facing down those 7s and stuff, where we can just put that down and then wait for them to pop one of our things, and then you're approaching me. Okay, crack my energy potion, continue my turn unimpeded. Not the best thing, but it is something that I can still do in that matchup to continue going if I need to put pressure on that turn, on those like late shackles where like if I don't strip cards or kill them, the game is going to slip away from me. On top of that, in the chain matchup, it's something that I can kind of put out early and kind of build into that big turn, so I can like really come at them that turn that I'm going to try to get their husk and just chunk the shit out of them and strip their hand, because I want to be able to, come in with like an Erudition or a Judgment and then pummel it and then put on even more pressure and try to strip cards. I want to get their husk and take their hand in the same turn. Otherwise, they're just going to say, whatever, take it, and then keep attacking me. So that lets you have that big turn with just playing a multi-card hand. It lets you have a 6-card hand, essentially, which is nice.
So, like, having it up in 1 card in hand lets you threaten pummel every turn, and that's something they have to play around. You might not have it, just, it's a good bluff. It's good for, on their turn, soul shielding or theoretically haloing. It's you can footsteps with it. That's like a lot of, and again, someone who's doing if you have a null room, you can just use it to gain 2 life essentially. So it has a lot of uses, and if you go first and you just down an E-Pot in Arsenal, that's a big game.
Yeah, I found that helped me a lot in my games that I was going first when I would just open one of those, being like, "Cool, I'm just gonna go into my next turn with 6 cards, deal with it."
Yeah,
And it really makes a lot of your awkward turns a lot more comfy. Like those turns that you have like a weird library turn where you can't like comfortably play the library. You can just crack the pot and play the library. Maybe you don't have the right kind of pitch value in your hand for playing an aura. The Epot kind of helps you there. Or on a turn that you play an aura and you just like have an extra card in your hand and you already have an arsenal. Well, you just make the Epot the last card in hand and play that out. Makes your erudition turns huge. Uh,
yeah,
it helps you get over that hump against a lot of defensive decks. I found that was one of the things that I found that I liked it the most for when I'm playing against like a defensive Katsu, defensive Dash, defensive Bolton. Just if you're just gonna throw your entire hand in front of my shit every turn, I'm just gonna put an Epot down. And this is how I play a lot of my matchups that I'm not like under a real clock where we're just kind of grinding each other out. I'll just spend the entire game setting up my pitch, putting my eruditions and books and like a combination of blues and yellows on the bottom, and just try to set up this end game scenario where I have a life buffer. The turn that I draw library, I will try to make an attack where I strip cards from their hand, and then end my turn by playing library. That way, I'm only facing down like 2, 3 cards from them because they like double blocked or something like that, and then I can just go into that next turn and say no blocks. I have a library in play. I have 5 in hand. I have an Epot in play, hopefully an arsenal. And the next turn, I come at them with the full brunt of that force and probably take their entire hand and then draw 5 again. And then get into this loop in the end game where the entire bottom of my deck is now gas. I'm taking your entire hand every turn that you're blocking because I'm just coming at you with so much that it's either that or you die. And you just never really get back into the game at that point. I'm just in this constant loop of pressure. And like, how are you going to fight 5 cards and sometimes 6 cards every turn? And the Epot helps really facilitate that big explosive turn where I rip their entire hand. Because that, so long as I take their whole hand once, the game kind of ends on the spot. They never get a chance to get out of that loop once I'm under the library.
and something to note. When we first added E-Pots, we were actually playing 3. I believe I had got second place.
Yes, we were both playing 3 the first day, and then the second day we shaved 1.
And I dropped 1 game in Swiss. It was against a chain player, and I just had that triple E-Pot hand and something else that wasn't yellow, and I was like, oh, I guess I lose. And they were just coming at me with like red plunder run, arsenal turns, and whatever, and I'm like, okay, I guess I lose. So we opted to take that out almost immediately. The third one for Pursuit of Knowledge over there in
Mm-hmm.
and I really like Pursuit of Knowledge, but we opted to take it out just because it just doesn't have go again. It's just a blue snatch, but
Yeah, just like a few too many cards between that, the Epot, the library, and the CCs that like you can just end up with a canned where you can only play like 2 cards, and then you just end up drawing 2, which can really fuck you up if you're under a library too, because you're trying to dig for yellows, but now you're only playing 2 cards, so then you get to dig 2 cards deeper to find yellows, and you just kind of get into this loop of I just can't play my entire hand if you have a brick hand like that.
yeah. But people, I don't know what's up with Pursuit of Knowledge. People had like guess beat whenever I played it, and they would like block it, and I'd be like, okay, me not getting a +1 is better if you're just gonna block it and discard cards.
Oh, you know what we never got to do? I'm pretty sure that we can do that, right?
Not get with library. Get +2 intellect.
We never pummeled it.
Yeah, you can. I never got a chance.
That would have been a big game. Have an Epot and play in a pummel and Arsenal come into the pursuit, and they're just like
Put the library on the field. Oh.
Sink below, and then we're just like pummel over, get the last card out of your hand, and they're just like, what? That would have been sweet. Kind of want to put it back in the deck just to try to do that to someone once.
Oh man.
And then also for both of the days that we were playing, because so the first day, the first tournament we went to, I got top 8, Jimmy got second place, and then the second one we went to, I got top 4 and then split top 4 because I just wanted to get the fuck out of there and go home. We had 1 skull cap and 3 command and conquers. So I got the skull cap and he got the command and conquers.
And I played all the fucking Katsu they needed the skull cap for.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that we ended up putting in the deck for Katsu, just to have, like, again, that library turn I was just describing, where I say no blocks, essentially, just to be able to put the mask in front of one of their middle attacks to get them off of a mask trigger, so the turn is less threatening. Like, already accepting I'm going to take damage this turn, I don't care so long as I stop you from doing too much damage. But yeah, so I had to find substitutes for Command and Conquer. The first day, I played Phantasmaclasm. The second day, I played Snatch. The first day that I played Phantasmaclasm will probably be the last day that I play Phantasmaclasm ever. I will never play this card again. That cost me getting top 4. I was against a very good player, friend of mine, Cody, on Chain. He's very good. And that matchup on this build can sometimes boil down to getting luckier than your opponent, hoping that they, whiff on shackles and that you run hot. And I had a turn that I set up where I had, the E-Pot down. I had Arsenal, like an Erudition or something. I don't quite remember what it was anymore. But I had a turn where I pummeled my Erudition, and then I tomed, and I think I tomed again. It was a good turn. And I then followed that up with a Phantasmaclasm, looked at his hand, he had no 6s, he drew a Command and Conquer off the Phantasmaclasm, and I lost that game with him at 1 life. That 9 damage mattered. Yep, that was...
sitting right there watching that. My top 4 match. That was depressing to watch.
That was heartbreaking.
Yeah. I still like the argument of playing 1 Phantasmaclasm in the main, just so you can block with it early or even throw it out, and then it's just a target for Rebirth.
Just looping it later.
Yeah, just looping it, and it's really powerful looping it. But Phantasmaclasm, you have to pick a card in their hand to get a new one, and if they don't have a card in their hand, like they have no hand, they get to just draw a card. So the downside of Phantasmaclasm is big, but the DPC of it is huge. So
yeah,
3 for 9, insane.
Yeah, just 2-card 9.
Yeah.
I want to like the card. I love Vendilion Click, but it's that, and then the weekend before that, where I got top 8, I played another Chain player, and I'm pretty sure I complained about this in the last video, but I can't remember anymore. I think I got 1 attack in all game because he went Command and Conquer, 9 blades. Then I played Phantasmaclasm, and he had a Command and Conquer and a 9 blades in his hand. And then he Art of Ward 3 times on the following turn, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, the first weekend that we went to Rhodes Nationals, when we sucked booty cheeks, and we just had been playing for 3 days, I had the same thing happen to me, where back-to-back-to-back 6s, and played a Phantasmaclasm into double 6, and I was like, it's a lose.
Yep. They either have 2 or it draws them another every time.
But the card's great in Blitz that we're never going to play.
Yep.
So, moving on.
Moving on. So the following day, I cut the Phantasmaclasm for Snatch, and that actually performed really well. It was good into every single Chain deck I played against, and it was just like a good card against everything else, but it was like really good against the Chains, because I would just end up with an extra card sometimes, so I would Arsenal it or just run it out. And like against one of the Chain players, I played the Snatch, and the Snatch drew me a Snatch, so I just had 2 back-to-back turns of snatching him, and he decided that blocking was not the optimal choice in that matchup, so I got a lot of free damage in with them. He was pretty much just saving his armor for like my Judgment in the Erudition, and I don't know if that was correct. I can't really say. I don't know what his hand was. I feel like you want to block in Chain, but what do I know? I'm an ape that plays Prism. But the snatch,
Sometimes I,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
The
go
other
ahead.
times I played Snatch, I really liked it. It's just it's essentially just a 4 power 3 pursuit of knowledge. Is pursuit of knowledge also 4?
Yes, they're the
Yeah,
same pretty much. They both block for 2. They both attack for 4. One costs 2. One costs 0. But the one that costs 2 pitches for 3. So that's the.
yeah. But I really like Snatch. I had that in my deck at one point as like a 1 or 2
I
of.
think that if Prism wasn't a deck in the metagame, then I would consider Snatch more. I think I actually like Snatch more as a card in the deck than Command and Conquer, but just having that one card defense reaction essentially against Prism is really nice. So it's one of those, it's a slot thing of just this is better against more decks type of thing, and it's still good in the matchups that I would be bringing Snatch in for. It's good again.
Sucks a red pitch.
Yeah.
I felt the hate trait of playing anything red in the deck. Just the amount of times I would just draw like double, triple red with only playing like 9 to 12 reds in my deck.
Mm. And then there's one last card to talk about in the deck. I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, so we made a bet when we started playing, more as a joke, but we follow through with our jokes. Every road to national that we win, we would put a crack bauble in our main deck, not side deck, main deck. And we made that joke. We didn't even like realize, like we're just like, yeah, we're starting the game. Like you should even be able to play that. And then so I won the road to nationals and put that in my deck, and I still ended up getting second place with one in my deck. Almost got that second one, so maybe it was strategic that I didn't. But I have pitched it in almost every game that I've played, and I've been at like 3 to 4 road to nationals now, and it feels
Since putting it in. Since putting it in.
since putting it in. It's been in my deck, been in all of them. I don't know if they're ever going to upload my second place list on FabDB, but so many people like pummel me because everyone's pummeling each other. And when you discard a cracked bauble to a pummel, it feels so good. People are like, "Oh, like nice, it's out of my deck now." Training waits off. And but yeah, it's the yellow pitch. You just lead on it. It's fine. And so still in my deck, still going strong. And I believe I took out a random herald for it. Maybe a pummel. I can't remember at this point because you keep fucking changing the deck.
I think he took out a yellow rebirth.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, so just being a crackhead over here.
Crack bobblehead.
Crack bullhead.
Which might be the name of our podcast that we end up starting soon. We're probably going to do something podcasty once the Road to National season is over. Just talk about Road to Nationals and our general thoughts about it. But yeah, that's the deck. I've had a lot of questions about what we do for certain matchups and stuff, like siding or just how do we play certain matchups and stuff like that. I am going to make another video talking about the specifics of the different matchups and stuff, of just really basic baseline stuff for matchups. I'm not going to go too deep into it because each matchup could just be a whole video in itself, probably. But I'll go into the basics of that in another video coming up soon. I really appreciate all the support that we've gotten from everyone since the last video. If you guys have any questions for my follow-up video about like how we do different things in the deck, please leave those down below. I will look at all of those. And yeah, that's it from us. Say goodbye, Jimmy. Bye.